Cornerstone University faculty, Ned Keller, Cornerstone University student body, and peer reviewers everywhere. Tonight, we'd like to talk about the benefits of instruction on nonverbal communication before international travel in regards to Cornerstone University's short-term mission trips and any sort of academic endeavors overseas. We believe that Cornerstone University should offer certain resources, whether that be a class on nonverbal communication or a short, brief overview of what students should expect before traveling.
One of the sources we were able to find to support our recommendation was one called Attention to Eye Contact in the West and East, Autonomic Responses and Evaluative Ratings. This study was published by the Public Library of Science, and it is a comparison between the Western and Eastern culture in regards to the differences of nonverbal communications between two separate groups. There was not a lot of research about it. That's why the Public Library of Science was very invested on discovering how eye contact meaning is different in several countries. In this case, would be two different countries. They also wanted to know about how heart rate is affected by the eye contact. What I mean by this is that how when the people that they were getting evaluated, when they see the model in direct gaze or averted gaze or no gaze at all, to how their heart rate will be affected, and this has some correlations to their culture as well. Now I'm going to pass it to Sophie, that she's going to talk further details about it.
So, here are some quick facts about the study conducted. There were 40 study participants. All of them were undergraduate students and had no previous exposure to differing cultures than their own. So there were 20 Finnish adults, 10 male and 10 female, and then 20 Japanese adults, again, 10 males and 10 females. The groups are split up based on nationality, so one group was Japanese and the other group was Finnish. There was no control group. The independent variables in this study were nationality/cultural upbringing, and the dependent variable was heart rate due to emotional response. So, in this study or experiment, a participant would go into a booth and look at a model. The model would either look at them directly, avert their gaze, or make no eye contact at all. From this, the participant's heart rate was monitored. The results showed that both groups had a heart rate deceleration when direct gaze occurred. However, the Japanese group had a greater heart rate deceleration than the Finnish group when direct gaze occurred. However, this result or difference of heart deceleration wasn't a significant statistic. Also noted was when Japanese participants saw the direct gaze model, they reported it as the model being angrier and sadder, while the Finnish group didn't report any negative emotions.
The next article we looked at was called Cultural Display Rules to Drive Eye Gaze During Thinking. The eye gaze has different meanings in all different cultures. The conversation between individuals of different cultures is impacted by eye movement, which we all are aware of. Eye contact movement during conversation tells a lot about what a person knows and levels of respect for one another. In the article, the control group was 10 Canadian adults, 10 Trinidadian adults, 10 Japanese adults. Half of the test subjects were female and half were male. The sample size was 30 participants. The main assignment of this article was to find social interaction in between and understand what the different cultures do within themselves. The dependent variable were the participants that are looked at.
Now, for the results of this study, when the participants were asked a think question, participants kept eye contact less than 50% of the time, and there were no cultural differences between the three different races. However, Japanese participants looked down, and Trinidadian and Canadian participants looked up. We will revisit this later. When the participants were asked a no question, Trinidadians and Canadians did maintain eye contact most of the time. For the Trinidadians, it was 88%. As for the Canadians, it was 64%. The Trinidadians and Canadians maintained eye contact to show confidence. However, the Japanese participants maintained less eye contact at a lower 54% and would look down when they averted eye contact. Now, going back to the think question, when we look at how participants had less than 50% of eye contact, it's natural as human beings to look in another direction when you're asked a question that prompts you to think. This had no differences for the different cultures. However, one noticeable difference was Trinidadians and Canadians would look up, whereas Japanese participants would look down. In Western culture, which is relevant to Canadians and Trinidadians, looking up is a sign of confidence that they're thinking and they know what they're talking about. Whereas for Japanese participants, when they look down, that's actually a sign of respect. This is really important. Now, going back to the no questions, these are quicker questions that people can answer off the top of their head. Canadians and Trinidadians were able to answer really quick, and they maintained eye contact for most of the time. When they looked away, they would usually look to the side or up. Again, like I said previously, this shows that they're showing confidence in what they're saying. Whereas Japanese participants maintained much less eye contact at a 54%. And when they looked away, they actually looked down. Like I said before, this shows respect in Japanese culture. Personally, I grew up in Southeast Asia, and I can say that this is true. And especially in Asian culture, it's extremely important to show respect. Respect is a huge cultural thing. I'm half Cambodian. In Cambodia, respect for elders is always super important. You will not be taken seriously if you do not show this kind of respect.
When we chose the articles we did, we had to keep in mind not only the Christian worldview, but a few other factors as well. One thing that we wanted to make sure of is the studies we looked at could be replicated. Another thing that was important to us was to choose articles that were peer-reviewed. When it comes to the Christian worldview, we as Cornerstone students wanted to make sure that we found studies that aimed to find the differences between people groups. Specifically, we chose the topic of eye contact. We must also understand that there are different cultures, and that these different cultures react differently to different nonverbal cues. Jesus would want us to be loving and patient with people of different cultures. However, if we're the people going into another country, it is even more important for us to be aware of the aspects of that culture. Ephesians 4 verse 2 says, "With all humility and gentleness, with patience, bearing with one another in love." Finally, we have a few citations that cover the two articles that we focused on based on the studies we decided to look at.